Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, I know I haven't made a lot of videos recently. I've been busy, but when Brian from Tokyo Record Style launched this new vinyl tag, I knew I wanted to jump in. Super friendly guy, he's American who has been living in Tokyo for the past 20 years or so, I believe. And he has a YouTube channel and also has an Instagram profile where he randomly interviews people he sees running around in Tokyo with record bags and asks them what records that they bought. And it's a very cool project. So when he launched this vinyl tag, I wanted to jump in, and here are the 20 categories that he selected. First one, Obi-1, show a record with a Japanese obi strip. For the first category, I selected this album from Love T.K.O, Head Turner. Love T.K.O was like a side project or one of the many projects of Toshi and Kudo, who are two Japanese producers in the early 90s, late 80s, who had a huge influence on Japanese hip-hop. They usually recorded under the name Major Force, which was also the name of their label. So yeah, they did a lot for Japanese hip-hop or the evolution of it. And Love T.K.O is a more organic project. It's more live instrumentation, some soul and some jazz there with musicians and vocalists. And I always liked the cover version here of For What It's Worth of Buffalo Springfield. Really kind of trip-hoppy soul vibe. So this was the first album that I bought with an obi strip. It's from 1994 and it was released on Mowax, who did many projects together with Major Force. So yeah, lovely album. You know, some tracks haven't aged that well, but overall it's still a nice listen for people who are into down-tempo music and trip-hop and some soul, jazzy, acid jazz vibes from the early 90s. So the first album that I bought with an obi strip, Love T.K.O, aka Major Force. Number 2, show a Japanese band or artist. Well, the obvious choice would be Richie Sakamoto or Haruomi Hosono, the Yellow Magic Orchestra crew, but I decided to go for another artist, and in particular this album from Yoshiko Sai. I hope I say that right. And the title of the album, bear with me here, is蝶のすむ部屋, which means, I think, the room I live in. It's from 1978. It was her fourth album, reissued in 2021. This is the one that I have, the reissue. And it's a beautiful, beautiful album. It's on Discogs, people say it's folk, and in a way that's true. It's kind of folky, folk rock from that period, but to me it leans more towards vocal jazz and fusion. Especially the fifth track on here, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but there's a great breakbeat in there, and I really like her voice, Yoshiko Sai. She's a poet and a singer, musician, and after this album she didn't release any more music until the early 2000s. So she went on a hiatus for about 20 years or something. But this is a great album from 1978 of hers. And I also have her second album, which is called Miko. And look at this great cover, great Japanese drawings there. This is maybe even better, her second album from 1976. It has a lot of jazz influences as well, but there's even some traditional Indian music in there, some tabla sounds, and like, yeah, very fusion, a nice fusion of styles here on this album. So Yoshiko Sai, that's her name. Definitely an artist worth checking out. I haven't checked out the music that she released in the 2000s, but I'm sure it's beautiful. She has a beautiful voice, and these two albums by hers are absolutely fantastic. Number 3, Sunrise Soundtrack. Share a record for watching a sunrise. That's a no-brainer for me. This is the album, Matthew Halsall's Fletcher Moss Park. He signed it for me at one of his shows here in Belgium. Matthew Halsall is an English musician, trumpet player, who has made, I think, like 10 or 12 albums until now. Absolutely brilliant musician, and this is a fantastic album to play in the morning. This really is my Sunday morning, if I don't have to work, my Sunday morning soundtrack. Beautiful, beautiful album from Matthew Halsall. Great UK jazz. Number 4, City Sounds. Show a record with a city vibe. For this one, well, there's some city, like there's a skyline on the back cover and on the front cover. This is Motorbass and Pansoul. This album was released in 1995. Motorbass is Philippe Jdar and Etienne de Crécy. Philippe Jdar, who passed away a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, he fell out of a window or something. Very unfortunate, very sad. He later was part of Cassius, who were one of the main bands in that whole French touch scene, the French house scene. And the other half of this duo here, Pansoul, is of course Motorbass, sorry, is of course Etienne de Crécy, who later on recorded Super Discount albums. I think there were 4 volumes or something. So very influential producers in the French house scene. And to me, this album, it's probably the best album in the, in the scene, with big names like Etienne de Crécy and Air and Daft Punk. This to me is a fantastic album. It's a club album. It's a house music, so it might fit better in another category that's coming up later. But why I show this for a city vibe is because in 1999, I think 4 years after the release of this album, I went to Paris with 2 friends to see an exhibition of Herb Ritz, the photographer, at the Fondation Cartier in Paris. And this was playing in the car as we entered Paris, and this city vibe of Paris just totally fit that moment. And that's why I will always associate this album with the city of Paris. So a great album, Motorbass, Pansoul. Number 5, Zen Listening. Show a record that quiets your mind. For this one, I selected the music of Edward Larry Gordon. Now, you may not know him under this name. This is his debut album from 1978. This is a reissue from 2010 on Soul Jazz Records. But Edward Larry Gordon is a musician who later worked with Brian Eno on the 3rd volume in his ambient series. But this is his debut, Celestial Vibration. It's 2 tracks, 1 on each side. Edward Larry Gordon plays the zither and a piano. Great, fantastic, chill album from Edward Larry Gordon. But he actually records, just after this album, he released his music as Laraaji, which may sound more familiar. This is Laraaji on the cover of Record Culture magazine. A very influential musician for ambient music. This is one of his more recent albums on All Saints Records. It's called Bring on the Sun, from Laraaji. Great, great musician. I can highly recommend this one. This was also released on All Saints, and this is an overview of his career. Celestial Music, 1978-2011. Yeah, fantastic album to chill out to. Music from Laraaji. He still records, still making music. Number 6, Go 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 Godzilla. Share a record that destroyed your music expectations and perceptions. In 1998, drum and bass was already evolving. Everything was going very quick with albums like from Goldie and For Hero and a guy called Gerald. In 1997, Ronnie Size Represent won the Mercury Prize in England for the Album of the Year. The Mercury is a prize that gets handed out every year by the recording industry in the UK. But in 1998, For Hero released 2 pages. For Hero is a duo, Mark Mack and Digo. Great producers, started out in drum and bass, but came from a soul and funk and reggae background. And this album was released on Talking Loud, then the label of Giles Peterson, who gave them the opportunity to work with an orchestra, with a lot of musicians. And this took the music, not only drum and bass, but soulful, jazzy music combined with club influences to a whole nother level. So 2 pages by For Hero really was a groundbreaking album, and it still sounds excellent. 7, Ahead of Its Time. Share a record that was ahead of its time. Well, that goes for 2 pages, of course, by For Hero, but also goes for this album by Prefuse 73, Vocal Studies and Uprock Narratives. Prefuse 73 is the artist name of Scott Heron, nothing to do with Gil Scott Heron, but he released this album on Warp in 2001. And this is a groundbreaking album, really ahead of its time, because unlike Dilla, who searched his influences or the source for his samples in soul and funk and old jazz records, Scott Heron searched for it in or was more influenced by the glitchy electronica from the Warp label, like bands like Otekre or artists like Square Pusher and Aphex Twin, and he implemented that in abstract hip-hop beats. So years before Flying Lotus or Gaslamp Killer, Prefuse 73 was doing it in 2001 on Warp. Great album, Vocal Studies and Uprock Narratives. Very influential stuff. Number 8, Take a Walk, Man. Show an album suitable for dubbing to cassette for the classic Sony Walkman. I had a Walkman in the 1980s, and I bought a lot of tapes then. But right now, when I walk around in a city, I kind of want to absorb the sounds of the city, the different languages that people speak, just the vibe of a city. And when I go hiking in nature, I enjoy the silence and the birds and and the wind in the leaves. So I rarely walk around with music. So for this category, I selected silence. Number 9, Bullet Train. Show a record perfect for a train ride. First track, not an album, that came to mind is Star Guitar by the Chemical Brothers, with that phenomenal video by Michel Gondry, where it's like filmed inside a train and you see the landscape passing by, and for every beat, like if there's 4 beats in a row, there's like 4 houses passing by or 4 trees or whatever. It's a brilliant video, but it's not really Chemical Brothers' best album. And what's it called? Come With Me. And I don't have the 12-inch, so I decided to pick another record for this category, and it's with a train on the cover. Tall Black Guy, Let's Take a Trip. Very nice, down-tempo, soulful, jazzy hip-hop from, what year is this? 2016. And yeah, very nice album on First Word Records with a train on the cover. Tall Black Guy, good producer. Nice album. 10, Lost in Translation. Share a record that takes you to a different world. That's easy. Future Sound of London, Lifeforms. I show the CD because I don't have it on vinyl. It is available. It's been reissued. But I kind of prefer I think listening to this on CD, because it's a double CD, I think 1 hour each. And since this takes you to a whole nother world, you don't want to stand up in the middle of it to come back to earth and flip the record. So yeah, Lifeforms by Future Sound of London, fantastic album. If you look at the artwork, you know, this really takes you to a whole nother world. It's an album from 1994. This is the back cover. So yeah, Future Sound of London, Lifeforms, really takes you to another world. Number 11, Live at the Budokan. Show any record live. Now the Budokan is a very famous concert hall in Japan. I checked on Discogs. I gave in my collection Budokan. There's one track on Are You Gonna Go My Way, the Lenny Kravitz album, which has a bonus live track, which was recorded in the Budokan. But I didn't want to show that one. Not that it's not a good album, but I wanted to show a live album from Japan. And this is the Jackson 5 in Japan. This is the back cover. Now, I bought this on our trip to Japan in 2019 in a small shop in Matsumoto called Beat Disc. And yeah, this was pretty cheap. I don't remember exactly how much I paid for it, but it's much cheaper than when you want to buy it here in Europe, if you ever find it. And yeah, it's a cool live album. It was recorded in 1973. It has Looking Through the Windows, Got to Be There, Superstition, the cover of Stevie Wonder. Unfortunately, it has Ben, but anyway, you know, you can't have everything. A cover of Papa Was a Rolling Stone from The Temptations, Never Can Say Goodbye, Want to Be Where You Are. So yeah, a live album from Japan, the Jackson 5 from 1973. Next category, vinyl bar DJ. Show a record to play at a vinyl bar. Now, people may not know this, but you have this culture in Japan where you have vinyl bars, where you don't go to chat with the company that you're in, but you come to really have a drink and listen to some records on a phenomenal sound system. I think usually they play jazz in those bars in Japan. So if I would go there, what record would I want to hear? Well, probably one of my favorite records of all time, Every Day by the Cinematic Orchestra. This was released in 2002 on Ninja Tune Records. Like I said, one of the favorite albums in my collection. Incredible tracks, All That You Give with Fontella bass on vocals, Evolution also with her, Man with the Movie Camera, and that incredible track, All Things to All Men, with Roots Manuva, a great jazz album from 2002 on Ninja Tune. Cinematic Orchestra, Every Day, perfect for a vinyl bar, I reckon. I also want to show this. This is the reissue, because that original pressing probably isn't around anymore. This is the reissue from 2 years ago to celebrate the 20th anniversary. Has all new artwork by Strictly Kev. On a gatefold vinyl. It's on a fancy red vinyl, I believe, and has some bonus tracks. So this is still available. Cinematic Orchestra, Every Day. I highly recommend this one. One of my favorite albums of all time, in 2 different editions. Number 13, Island Nation. Share a record with an island vibe. For this one, I chose Island Sounds from Japan, 2009-2016. This is a compilation on Time Capsule, a label from DJ Kai Suzuki, and it's Japanese music with an island vibe. What can I say? Let me read what's on the back here. Offering a unique window into modern Japanese music, Time Capsule's latest release presents a group of artists who refuse to be bound by genre, mixing jazz, dance, reggae, psych, Afrobeat, and indigenous styles into distinctly tropical fusions. Go check it out. Island Sounds from Japan. With a cool Opie strip, of course. 14, Monsoon Season. Share a record for a rainy day. Rain comes with feelings of melancholy and maybe nostalgia or something, and I wanted to think of a record that starts with the sound of rain, and the first single from this album was The Sweetest Taboo, which starts with the sound of rain. So I chose Sade's Promise. The second album of the band from 1985. This is an original pressing, a great album, although I was 11 and I liked her debut album, but this one was more introvert, more I don't know, stripped down. Some tracks were more stripped down and I didn't really like it when it came out, but I was 11, what do I know? Now I think it's a masterpiece. It's a brilliant album, and of course the opener, Is It a Crime, is like, wow, like monumental in a monumental career of Sade. So Promise, a perfect record for a rainy day like it is now. Might put this on later. 15, Wabi Sabi, show a record that is imperfectly perfect. Now Wabi Sabi, I forgot the correct meaning of it, but it's like, you know, you have these beautiful cherry blossom trees that look, but then, you know, it starts, the leaves start to fall and it starts to deteriorate, and it has something to do with that. I forgot. Check out Brian's video, he'll tell you all about it. But when I think of imperfect perfection, I think of demo recordings. You know, it can be incredible songs, but lack that perfection of the final production and stuff like that. Or sometimes demos are just perfect the way they are, and that definitely goes for the demos of Broadcast. Broadcast were an English band who released a couple of albums, I think 4 in total, but unfortunately the singer Trish Keenan died in 2011 at the young age of 42. And this is going to be the final release. There's coming a second volume, I think now at the end of the month or early October. A second volume in this compilation of demos and outtakes. But this is a great band, Broadcast, collected demos 2006, 2009. Fantastic band. They made some great albums like Haha Sounds and Tender Buttons. But this is a collection of demo that was just released in early August, I believe, and a second volume to come within a couple of days or weeks. It will be the last ever release of Broadcast, unfortunately. 16, Origami Me, show a record with intricate or interesting packaging. This is a monster. It's the Amon Tobin box set from 2012, also released on Ninja Tune. This is incredible. This has, I think, 6 10-inch records in there. There's CDs, there's a poster. I'm gonna try to give you an idea what it looks like. So this is the front cover, and you have to unscrew these. Okay, this will be the boring part of the video. Yeah, this was like a box he released after he toured with his ISAM album, ISAM, and it's phenomenal. The DVDs in there, there's a live DVD in here of his ISAM tour, which was one of the most spectacular live performances I've ever seen. So this is a sheet with the credits. So this has CDs and DVDs, as you can see, all 9 DVDs, CDs, and then the vinyl is packaged like this. So you have 6 10-inch records with outtakes, exclusives. It's just incredible, an incredible set and incredibly designed as well. So Amon Tobin, the box set. I'm not gonna put this back together again. 17. Fusion Frenzy. Show an album that fuses genres. For this category, I have two, because they were released in the same year and they were very, very influential on my musical taste in general. Us Three and Jazzmatazz. Us Three was a duo that, in short, made a track which sampled a track from Grand Green. And Blue Note found out, and they say, hey, what you guys doing? And the compromise was that they would make an album filled with tracks based on samples from the Blue Note catalog. They did it. It was incredibly successful, big album in 1993. So I discovered a lot of jazz music through this one. And in the same year, Guru released Jazzmatazz, where the rapper from Gangstar, who's also no longer with us, unfortunately, did an experimental fusion of hip-hop and jazz. So he didn't sample, but he invited the jazz musicians to come work with him. Roy Ayers, Donald Byrd, Ronnie Jordan, Lonnie Liston Smith, Courtney Pine, Gary Barnacle, all worked on this album. And then vocalists DC Lee, MC Solar, Dia Davenport, and the great Carleen Anderson. So two big fusion albums from 1993. Tokyo Nights. Show a nightlife record. Now the Motorbass record that I showed would fit this one perfectly. It's a nightlife, it's a house record, it's a club record, you can dance to it, it's incredibly fun. But this album is a nightlife record too, because I cannot imagine listening to this on a sunny afternoon. And that's the debut album by Burial. Okay, it's still in the shrink, I'm sorry for the reflection. This is the first artist album on Hyperdub, the label. Burial, fantastic album, and it also can fit in the category for city sounds, because this really is London. And this, when you listen to this, this is really what a night walk in London represents, I believe. And it's such an incredible album. It also fits in the category of groundbreaking albums, of albums that were ahead of its time. This is really phenomenal. How can I show this without a reflection? I can't. I'm sorry. I should have taken it off. But yeah, Burial's debut album, fantastic. 2006. His follow-up, Untrue, probably was a better one, because it's more focused and it has more depth. But yeah, highly recommend this one for a nightlife, a record to listen to at night, not necessarily a nightlife record, if you know what I mean. Anyway, almost end of this video, but category 19 is end of the day. Show a record to play at the end of a busy day. Well, I think when I come home after a busy day, I prefer a bit of silence. But then to ease into the evening, I can imagine myself listening to some new music. And especially if it's as soul soothing as this one from Jordan Rakei. This is his most recent album, The Loop. This is a great neo-soul album. It has a lot of gospel influences this time. I must say that it's a return to form. I didn't dislike his album before this, or the last two ones he made, but yeah, this is Jordan Rakei is back, if he was ever gone. But this is a phenomenal, great album. Highly recommended. This is an alternative cover, by the way. This is the Dinked edition. This, which is produced for independent record stores in the UK. So it comes in a fancy see-through color. Highly recommended, and an excellent listen after a busy day at work. And finally, the last category, The Last Samurai. Share a record to remember by, to play at your memorial. I think at my memorial I would want some, I think I want to transcend with a bit of drama. And what better song, I believe, is the monumental epic ballad that is The Power of Love by Frankie Goes to Hollywood, off of this album, Welcome to the Pleasuredome. And maybe I hope in a way that the master of ceremony plays Relax and, you know, instead. But Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Welcome to the Pleasuredome. That was it, the Japanese vinyl tag from Brian Tokyo Record Style. Hope to see you soon. Thank you for watching, and hit like and subscribe. You know it's important for the channel, for any channel that you like, in fact. So peace.